Get ready for the big revival. The real estate revival, that is. Now on 77 WABC, your New York weekend.
Get ready for the big revival.
It's Rand on Real Estate. With Greg Rand.
The big real estate revival. My name is Greg Rand. I'm your host on 77 WABC and WABCRadio.com. This is a show about building wealth despite this lousy recession we've all been living through. We have a great show on tap for you. We're going to zip around the country again this month, and we're going to show you two very different kinds of real estate investment markets. We're going to go up to the mountains in Colorado Springs, talk to an expert from that marketplace, and share with you what's happening there and how to read the tea leaves on what kind of opportunities are in places like that. And then we're coming back across to the East Coast to Atlanta, a place that has been just abused by the housing crisis, but we'll show you why that is not the whole story, why there's a big story, a big opportunity there as well, and actually give you some ideas of how you can go about taking advantage of it. We're going to get on the phone with that expert from Colorado Springs right after the break, but I want to get your calls in today. Your calls are the best part of the show, so get this number down, 800-848-WABC. That's 800-848-9222. And here's what I want you to ask me about. Of course, anything related to real estate is okay, but what have you been thinking about in terms of your retirement planning? Have you recognized the fact that real estate, being in a slump like it is, presents an opportunity, but you hear the news out there, you know, and you can't quite get your brain around the idea that if everybody out there is so negative, you must be the only person who could be optimistic. You must be crazy. They must all be right. I think they're wrong. So give me a call, ask me about anything related to real estate investment, ask me about home ownership, but also tell me about your dreams, because that's the most fun for me, is talking about how you can secure your financial future, and I want to show you how to do that. But first, I have to give you your regular dose here, your regular dose of realistic optimism, because they were at it again in the last couple of weeks. You know, the media, remember, they live in houses, and so by virtue of living in a house, they believe they are housing experts, right? I mean, that's, you know, I'm sorry, I forgot to introduce my co-pilot, Laura Smith. How are you?
That's okay. I'm just watching you dive right in after your vacation here.
Yeah. So they're always out there talking about housing like experts, right? You turn on CNBC and you see a panel, and there's a couple of economists and a couple of reporters and maybe a politician thrown in and maybe like a hedge fund CEO or something like that. And they talk about the housing market, and they all have such expertise. They're such armchair quarterbacks because they live in a house, and I guess because they go to work in an office building, they're also commercial real estate experts. But they don't know jack about this marketplace, and they prove it time and time again. And so this week what they're saying is there was a glimmer of good news in the housing market, because the home sales, I guess, in June were up a tick from May. And so the headlines, if you go out and look for them, you'll see things like, the Dow doesn't respond to the positive housing news, or positive housing numbers out. Does this mean we're poised for a recovery? And the answer is, we're poised for a recovery eventually, okay? But what the problem with the way that they analyze the market is that I know what's coming in the next 3 or 4 weeks. The housing numbers are going to come down again. They are, and here's why. You might recall that a year ago, there was a big government tax credit encouraging people to buy homes. You were going to get somewhere between $6,000 and $8,000 off of your tax bill if you bought a home between certain dates, okay? And the expiration of that landed right around the latter part of the summer. It was actually expiring on July 30th, and then they extended it for, I think it was 6 weeks. So the point is, there was a big rush of transactions that took place towards the end of last summer, which means when they compare this summer, which is actually slowly improving and slowly recovering, they're going to go from double dip recession 2 months ago to, oh my, is there a recovery today, to, oh no, triple dip recession or some other stupid thing they're going to come up with, which is just going to reopen the wound, all right? So I need to give you your dose of optimism. I need to give you another dose of Teflon, okay? You have to let this stuff roll off your back. You cannot listen to them. They do not have your best interests at heart. I don't know what their motivation is. You know, the whole if it bleeds, it leads thing in the media always mystified me. I would really think if a station came out and optimism, I mean, this show is about optimism, and we're building an audience, so obviously optimism does play out there in the marketplace, but they're not doing that. They want to try to freak you out, and you just can't let them, because here's what I think. I think you've got a voice in your head and a sort of sense in your heart that you understand the housing market's going to recover. You understand how we got where we are right now. Okay, everybody went a little bit haywire during the roaring 2000s. Things got a little bit crazy. Prices got too inflated. Lending got too lax. And then we have a foreclosure crisis. So the foreclosure crisis is dragging us all down, Every time the government gets involved, they make it worse. It sounds like they're starting to step away from trying to solve the housing crisis problems right now. But the bottom line is that you know it. The voice in your head is telling you the truth, that the housing market, while in pain today, is going to recover. And if you know what you do, that it's a long-term asset. There's no point in sitting here talking about what happened in June compared to May. It drives me insane. I mean, notice, like, Laura, since we sat down here and started broadcasting in the last 10 minutes, Apple stock has gone down and probably up again and down again and up again. You never hear anybody on Bloomberg say, I think Apple is headed for a big crash.
Right.
Why? Because it went down 8 minutes ago. Oh, my God, it went up again. Oh, wait, it's going back down again. I use this analogy a lot because everybody understands that Apple's on a roll right now. Everyone understands that if there was some kind of short-term bobbling of the stock price, nobody would look at that and read that as a trend. They know what it is. But the same exact analysts who recognize that on Wall Street look at housing and are trying to read the tea leaves by looking at these short-term sort of vibrations of the market. So take this to the bank. The market is not done correcting yet, okay? The Secretary of the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development, a guy named Sean Donovan, who is the senior regulator and official in the federal government on housing, came out this week and said that he doesn't think prices are going to come down anymore. He thinks it's done. The correction in prices is over. I don't know how he could possibly say that. He's wrong. And so as the prices come down further this year, next year, you'll know that the senior most official in the federal government doesn't know enough about real estate, doesn't know as much as I do about real estate, and you can trust your friend Greg from Randon Real Estate because he doesn't get the fact that when you have a couple of million properties that are in the process of being foreclosed on, those properties are going to be taken back by the bank eventually. When the government lets them do it, they're going to go ahead and do it. They're going to put those properties on the market for a discounted price to unload them, and those properties tend to be entry-level properties, meaning they're the lowest price stuff in any given market. The combination of discounting and being lower price stuff in general is going to give us housing stats that show property values coming down some more. So he's nuts. I don't know what his motivation is. I think his motivation must be trying to give some good housing news out there to try to boost the administration's economic picture right now. That's the only thing that I can think of because I think he knows better. But don't buy into it. Don't take the bait when they tell you something is good because they're going to hit you across with a left cross next time with negative news. So understand you have to stand up tall. You have to look really, really far into the future. And what you're going to see is we're going to find a bottom. We're going to hang out there for a few years. And then when the overall economy revives, which is what happens in America, the real estate market's going to revive again. So you have to have that 10-year scope. Otherwise, stay clear of real estate investing because you'll drive yourself mad. So that's your steady dose of optimism, realism, and when we get back, we're going to take a couple of calls. Frank from Passaic, I'm going right to you when we get back, so stay here. And we're going to take a call from my friend out in Colorado Springs. You're listening to Randon Real Estate on 77 WABC. Back in a minute.